What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the GoldGuy YouTube channel. Thank you guys for tuning in to yet another one of my videos. If you didn't see the last video I posted, it was basically disassembling the top end of the 1981 GS850 Suzuki Scrambler. You should just watch it. I've been having an oil leak, head gaskets, and the base cylinder gasket. They are dried up, no longer sealing properly, so I have to replace those gaskets. In the last episode, I got everything disassembled, taken apart, and I was in the process of cleaning up the old head gaskets, the old base cylinder gasket, and I hit a little bit of a roadblock. I had a lot of trouble getting those gaskets off. This gasket is baked on there good. So I bought a 3M Rolock bristle disc, which I've heard a lot of good things about in terms of removing gaskets from aluminum without damaging the aluminum. It takes 2 days to get here, so in the meantime, I've got some more work to do. I'm going to pull these cases off because I actually want to paint them black. I think it'll actually look a lot nicer on the Scrambler anyway. So I'm going to start off by pulling off these cases, getting them cleaned up, getting them sanded, paint them, and then by the time this paint's dry, I'll be able to get the head and the cylinders cleaned up and get everything reassembled. So let's get right into it. Gotta pull the starter motor cover off so I can unplug this wire that's hanging up. And now we can remove this case. So now I'm gonna see if I can use this aircraft remover to remove this Forma gasket, this RTV, from the valve cover, and I know it's going to be able to remove the paint off of these cases. I could probably just do that by hand, but I might as well use chemicals to make the job easier. Barely been a second and the paint's already removed from that one. Alright, now let's let that stuff sit for a little bit. Now it's time to get the clutch case off. I've never had this case off, and it shows. There it is. That gasket came off pretty well. Alright, now let's give this thing a coat of paint. After I clean it and sand it, of course. Let's see how that aircraft remover did. All the paint on the cases is removed, obviously, but the RTV looks like it stood up to the aircraft remover, which is very surprising. This time I'm going to wipe the aircraft remover and old paint off before I wash it down the sink, because that's the right thing to do. Alright, I got the engine cases all scuffed up, cleaned up, ready to paint. I'm going to give them one last wipe down with some solvent, some paint thinner. Alright, let's do it. First I'm going to start off with this engine primer up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. You might as well repaint these the same color while I'm at it. primer's dry enough for another coat, so I'm going to go ahead and hit these cases with this Duplicolor black engine enamel with ceramic up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. It's been about 15 minutes, ready for some gloss high heat clear coat. So I've got a complete gasket kit from eBay. So this is the complete top end gasket kit. I also bought a few extra gaskets, the stator case, the oil pan gasket, the clutch case gasket, and the little timing cover gasket. It's the next day and these cases are totally dry. The paint job came out super nice. I've got the sealing surfaces cleaned up real nice, ready to seal. And next, the stator cover. There it is. Haha! Check it out. The 3M Roll-Lock bristle disc has come in the mail. I've got it chucked up in my drill right now, which probably won't be enough speed to take these gaskets off, but I'm gonna try it out anyways. Well, it definitely seemed like it worked well at cleaning up just the little residue pieces, but as far as this paper goes, this thick paper gasket that's still left, it does not remove that. So I'm gonna have to figure something else out. Alright, so I've got half of the cylinder sealing gasket surface cleaned up pretty well, and the best way I've found to do it, I know this isn't what anyone wanted me to do or what I wanted to do, but I had to use a razor blade just to clean off the paper as much as I could, as carefully as I could, and I've been sitting here for about an hour and I've got half of it cleaned up, so that just goes to show how long this is going to take. In the beginning I was looking for an easier way to do this, but really there is no easy way to do this. It just takes a lot of time and patience. And the things that have helped me are carb cleaner, helps to soften up the paper, and WD-40 also softens up the paper while lubricating the aluminum, which protects it from the razor blade a little bit. And then I've been using the Roll-Lock bristle disc, which has been working really well at cleaning up the little residue, the little gasket paper residue pieces. So I'm going to do the rest of the cylinder, check it out, check out how I'm doing this. And maybe cringe a little bit if you're like that, but I think it's working out just fine. I got lucky with that piece. Well, another hour later, not really. Another half hour later, and I've got the bottom base cylinder sealing surface cleaned up pretty good and looking as good as I think it's ever gonna look. So now let's see how we can clean up the head gasket sealing surface. I'm gonna see if this Roll-Lock bristle disc will take this weird bumpy stuff off. Alright guys, it's been a while since I filmed that last clip. It's been a few days and I went on a camping trip. I haven't worked on this at all. That's why this video has taken so long to come out. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up this bottom engine gasket surface. Also, I need to replace these rubber O-ring things. This is right around where the oil slinger shoots the oil up to get to the head. Before I get the cylinder back on the engine, I'm gonna have to resurface the head sealing surface. I've already started just using this big wooden block and some 220 grit sandpaper. Now I'm just gonna finish it off with some 500 grit. Alright, I think that's as good as I can get it. There's still some black stuff that you can see on here, but I can't feel any of that at all. It must be dimpled into the head surface. Alright, I got both gasket surfaces pretty much cleaned up. Let's go ahead and clean this thing off. So around each cylinder are these big black O-rings right there around each cylinder. And my new gasket, top end gasket kit came with all 4 new seals, and it even came with exhaust pipe seals and valve seals, which I didn't need anyways, but I got them now. There we go, we got some motor oil ready. I'm just gonna get some on each O-ring before I put it in its place. So there we go, nice and oiled up. And those go in just like that. Alright, now it's time to get the cylinder back on. Here is the cylinder base gasket. I'm going to dress it up with some of this gasket dressing. It's fuel resistant. You can use it on head gaskets. This is just good to fill in any gaps I might have made when cleaning the surface, because I know using that razor blade I must have gouged it a little bit. So this just prevents any leaking from that. Hopefully, that's the idea anyway. Alright, I think it's ready to go. I'm not too sure really. It's kind of starting to thicken up, which it's supposed to do. And I guess next I'm going to use some more of this stuff on the top of the gasket. Before I slide the pistons back into the cylinder, I'm gonna make sure the piston rings are nice and oily so they don't scratch the cylinder surface. Alright, let's do this. Alright, I guess first we gotta do the outer 2 pistons. We gotta get the rings lined up and get them in there, and then we'll do the inner 2 because they're a little bit lower. Alright, now it's time to clean up the actual head. Gonna try this thing out again. While this looks like it's still gasket material on there, it's actually, the aluminum has actually pitted, or the gasket has pressed into the aluminum so hard that it's left divots. So I'm hoping that the gasket and the gasket dressing will fill all those up and seal quite nicely. Can't forget these dowel pins. I almost forgot this O-ring, or not really an O-ring, but it's a seal that goes in the timing chain passageway. First, these outer 4 dome nuts go back on the head with these copper washers. And all the rest of these washers and nuts go back on the studs. Alright, now it's time to torque down the bolts, and I'm just going to snug them with this and then switch to the torque wrench. Now it's time to torque them down, 27 foot-pounds. If you guys remember from the first video, there's a very specific order that we took these nuts off in. We're going to tighten them down in the same order. Alright, now we can start cranking these down. Feels like it's way too tight, but I think it's just right. There's a clicker. There's another clicker. There's another clicker. Alright, I'm done saying that now. And there we go. They're all torqued down. Now we just got these 2 bolts on the sides and the one on the front. Alright, now we've got to line up the timing marks. We got to set this at top dead center. Got the timing marks lined up. The book says to lubricate the camshaft lobes and bearing surfaces with molybdenum disulfide lubricant, which I've got in this bag right here, left over from doing the CV joints on my Subaru. Alright, now we can get the exhaust camshaft where it belongs. I almost forgot this timing chain tensioner slider thing. Now that the exhaust camshaft is installed, I have to line up the timing marks, and there are the numbers 1 and 2 with arrows next to them, and the book states that the number 1 arrow is supposed to point directly forward or pointing at the cylinder head valve, or the cylinder head valve cover gasket surface. So right here, and there's that arrow. It said it can point slightly below. That's about the best I can get it. So I guess now we install the bearing caps. Alright, the intake camshaft is lubed up and ready to go in there. Something like that. We just got to line up the timing marks. For this next step, that this number 3 arrow should be exactly pointing at 20 pins away from the number 2 arrow. So let's count what it's at right now. It is 18 away right now, so we have to rotate the intake camshaft. Now it is exactly 20 away, so we can go ahead and put the bearing caps back on. Just 7 foot-pounds. Finally, we can reinstall the cam chain idler. Alright, now it's time to reinstall the cam chain tensioner. But first we've got to reset the tensioner rod. To do that, we just loosen up this lock screw. Get it back in there. Push it in as far as you can, twist that knurled nut, and then tighten that lock screw down, get the lock nut, and there we go. And once it's all tightened down, the next step in the manual says to unscrew the lock screw a quarter of a turn until it disengages that tensioner rod, and then you tighten the lock screw down and you're done. Alright, so now I just have the valve cover to clean up. As you can see, there's still a ton of RTV silicone stuff on it. I'm going to try out this Permatex Safe Scraper. It's just a plastic razor blade, basically. It seems to work on this stuff pretty good, but this probably wouldn't work very good on the paper stuff. I'm just missing one little thing. There's a little bit of extra gasket there that I do not need. That's better. Oh, guys, this is one of those things that just dragged on. This feels like it took like a month to accomplish, but I've got the engine all put back together, brand new gaskets, sealed with that Permatex stuff. I got some stuff painted. It's looking good, I think. I have to replace the oil pan gasket, and I want to paint the exhaust, put it back on, get the carburetors cleaned up, get them back on the bike, and then this thing will be basically ready to sell as long as it doesn't leak any oil. So if you guys want to see me finish up this bike, give me a little bit of motivation. Sometimes I need motivation. Just comment down below, finish the GS850. I will finish this thing up in the next video or so. Thank you for watching. Comment down below what you think. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.